using your own customers to create a lot of your content, or your own affiliates, your evangelists, and your advocates is the easiest way to scale organic reach through creators, influencers, and organic video. So recently we launched our YouTube channel, and it is powered by our customers from our Slack community, and we're now doing over 100,000 views a month. That's because we focus on the customers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to How to Launch a Product on Social in 2025. How often do you guys spend finding yourselves in that endless scroll on social media? But then all of a sudden you see something that stands out, whether it gives you a chuckle, whether it's something deeply relevant, or something really bold that captures your attention and converts you to purchase. I'm joined today with a phenomenal panel here, and we're going to talk about different strategies of how you can really up-level your product presence on social media. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Ramon Barrios. He is co-founder of Castmagic IO and host of our DTC Pod. Thank you, Ramon, for joining us today. And I'm joined by Jacqueline Snyder, who is an entrepreneur, founder, and host of The Product Boss. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm Ariel Boswell. I am a senior data analyst at HubSpot and co-host of Another Bite podcast. So jumping into social and how we think about launching a new product, what are the top 3 things that you feel that founders need a good understanding of in order to effectively launch a product on social media?
So hey everyone, my name is Ramon, and I host DTC Pod, where I've interviewed over 300 e-com founders, but primarily from my own experience, I've launched AI companies and previous business Trend.io, which was creator-based. And in my launches, what I focus on is number 1, reporting. Are we capturing the right information at the right time every single day? So not so much attribution. I don't really care where the conversions are coming from, but I do want to have the pulse on what's happening. If I see a spike in traffic, what exactly drove that? And things can break, right? Like, what are the support tickets we're getting? Did something break on the onboarding funnel? So reporting. Number 2 is what you mentioned, which is ideal customer profile. Do I know my ICP? And once I have that, then what is the singular channel we're going to focus on for this launch? Because nowadays, each platform is its own beast. And so if you're launching, typically you don't have as many resources. And so I like to focus 100% on one channel. And when we just did that for Castmagic, we generated over 7 figures in under 7 months, and it was through singular focus on influencers on Instagram.
Great. Well, hello everyone. I'm Jacqueline Snyder of The Product Boss, and I am an expert for physical product-based business owners. And so I've been in the business for about 20 years, helping small businesses and medium-sized businesses grow. But I'm also a service-based business. So with a podcast, a media company, and an education company, I think I've got a good grasp on both, right? Whether you're doing e-com or you're selling physical products, and or if you're launching and like creating courses or programs or anything online. So I think one of the things, and because I'm a startup expert, a lot of times we don't start with an audience. And so the 3 things that I would recommend is 1, warming up an audience. And really for that purpose, if you're going to use social, you're going to want to start to create content, right? That drives the exact audience you're looking for towards you. Now, what I want to just remind everyone is that social is truly social. And especially now, the way that everything's changed and the algorithm is people really want to be entertained. I'm always like the gladiator, right? Like, are you not entertained? So you have to understand who your ideal customer is so that you can create entertaining content to bring them in. I would also say that there's a really good amount of time of pre-seeding. So because I've launched 2,000 startup fashion brands, including one of my own, one of the things that I really wanted to teach people is when you figure out who your ideal customer is and you start to create this warm list, you may or may not have your product ready. So I truly believe in whether you're creating content that is driven towards something. So for example, I have a student that was doing an equestrian brand for tweens, and she did not have her product created. In fact, we were trying to do this during 2020 when everything was shut down. So instead, she started creating content that was really aligned with the tween consumer on Instagram, for example. So you can definitely pre-seed or think about content to start putting out there prior to ever having the launch. And then I would say the 3rd thing is a way of capturing their information. Sure, we can get follows, sure, we can get likes and engagement, We use a chatbot, and I can share that with all of you at the end. There's a doc that I have for all of you. But we use a chatbot that really starts to interact with the people who follow us, engage with our content, and then we capture their emails in the DM. So I would always say, like, starting to build your email list is like the number one, no matter whether it's a physical product, a service, SaaS product, anything like that. You really need that email list.
Love that. Having a strong brand and kind of ideation of who your audience is, knowing your audience, and then finding ways to continually engage with them throughout your pipeline.
Absolutely.
I love that focus on the data. So that kind of leads me to my next question. You know, roughly 40% of developed products actually reach the market, and 60% of those generate revenue. So when we think about a successful product launch on social, how do we go about measuring that success? What are the different data points that you're looking at to point for indicators that you are generating, whether it's brand awareness or conversion for your products?
Yeah, I would say when you're bootstrapped, sales trumps all. So sales is without sales, there's no business to keep the lights on. But there are definitely secondary effects that you should aim for. And number one is trust. Like you're trying to create trust when you're creating content on social, and that is the benefit of launching on social over launching on ads. That you can create that relationship with a community and start building that trust, which will lead to conversion. So traffic, CPMs, and impressions mean nothing if there's no trust, because that won't lead to conversions. So typically I love to optimize for building trust, creating content as a founder, being everywhere I can be to get the trust from the audience, to then have the funnel be able to convert.
Yeah, so what are some of the tools? Let's say that you are a marketing manager, you have a new product that you need to launch on social. What are some of the tools that you're leveraging to really amplify that product? I know there's things like TikTok Shop. There's different levers you can pull from like content and targeting or remarketing strategies. What are some of the main kind of arsenal within your head?
Yeah, I mean, if you are DTC or e-com, TikTok Shop is definitely, absolute gold mine right now. So that is the number one tool I would implement if it was DTC. When it comes to SaaS, I wouldn't call it so much a tool, but instead just influencers. Like, it really is what is working the best for us. And instead of any fancy tools, we activate influencers based on CPMs, which I just pull out the calculator on my phone, run a formula for the average of views and what I'm paying for the CPMs of those influencers. And I'm good enough with Google Analytics and seeing the signups and how the funnel is converting.
Yeah, love that for folks. So really looking at the metrics for cost efficiency and understanding if your marketing dollars are converting and bringing in high quality users. Jacqueline, is there anything you'd like to add on that?
Well, I like to work backwards. So I've been in business long enough that I have data that I can work backwards completely from. So knowing what my lead acquisition would be, and then knowing the conversion to that, like the percentage of conversion. So we recently just had a launch where we were looking at 18,000 leads to come into a challenge, let's say, and then knowing from that 18,000, we convert about 2% of them. So once you start to have that data, you can really work backwards from your goal, which of course for us is revenue as well. So I think it's always driven by revenue, and then knowing whether it's your average order value or the cost to acquire the customer. And we could really just work backwards from that. And I'm pretty dead on with knowing exactly how a launch is going to go based on our lead acquisition. So I think the more you can really start to tailor the data that you're grabbing for what you're doing, it becomes a formula. So in the very, very beginning, it is just guess, right? We're always in test and try, especially on like first launches. But I think as you start to repeat it, the data doesn't lie, and really the numbers don't lie. And so I can really work the formula backwards, and that works for either e-com or service.
But that's balancing the art and the science that come with a product.
I want to add one thing to that as well, which is, not so fancy on tools, but obsessive over the metrics in the onboarding funnel. So Blaine, my co-founder, who's somewhere around here, knows that we're constantly testing and iterating on that onboarding funnel. There's typically 10 steps in the buyer journey before they get to the purchase. And so we'll test free trial with credit card, free trial without our credit card, paid up front, and then track the retention of those users, because you might be getting more people to convert further up front in the journey now, but they might just be churning at a higher rate after 30 days. So I agree with you that you have to be obsessive over the data, not so much the tools that you're using.
So I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit, Ramon, on this. I feel like everyone has seen the meme where it's what being engaged has taught me about B2B sales. You see all the corny LinkedIn kind of posts between, founder-led versus brand-led. And I feel like you do such a great job of striking this balance of relatability between being self-promotional versus leaning in on your brand. So would love to kind of pick your brain a bit on how do you find that balance between brand-led content versus founder-led?
Yeah, I always optimize for trying to do as much founder-led content as possible, because when you're launching, that's the advantage that you have over the incumbents. Not every company can have the face of the founder be there because the company has grown and the founder has better things to do than making content. But when we're starting out, we've got nothing to lose. And so I try to put my face out there as much as possible, especially with AI, where we're headed into a world where the technology becomes a commodity more and more. So attaching a brand to the social content that you create will increase conversion. So there's actually a funny story about that. When we were starting out Castmagic, Blaine, myself, and Justin, who are the founders, we were on support together the whole time. And when we would get a ticket for support, we would send a Zoom link right on the chat, and the person would join, and it would be us three together. We did Blaine specifically did over 10,000 customer support tickets herself. So you have to make sure that this founder content isn't just, it's not that the founder makes a video and they run it on ads and that's founder-led content. No, it has to be consistent throughout the journey. Again, there's many points where the conversion can happen. And so we're doing the workshops weekly with our customers. We're doing the calls with them. We have a Slack community right now with over 1,700 active customers in that community. And it's ourselves running it, answering every question, and making all of the content. So I try to not outsource brand content unless content can be challenging for some founders if you're not naturally good at it. But I just think it's worth the muscle and the practice and the consistency to get good at it, because I would much rather have 1,000 views but earn 1,000 fans and create conversions than 1 million views viral on TikTok from someone they don't know and can relate to and leads to no conversions.
I want to just hone into organic social recently. I think anyone who manages a social media account sees that organic reach is on decline. Video, you really have to lean into or tap even into influencer audiences to increase your reach. What are some tips that each of you have when it comes to maximizing your reach and combating some of that fatigue that we're seeing on the organic front?
I think one of the biggest hacks that we've done, well, not necessarily a hack, but using your own customers to create a lot of your content, or your own affiliates, your evangelists, and your advocates is the easiest way to scale organic reach through creators, influencers, and organic video. And the reason I say that is because so much of scaling UGC is operational. You come across so many bottlenecks when trying to scale content. And one of those is briefing the creators and making sure that they're getting the message across. So in our case, we tried with a bunch of different creators and couldn't scale it because, had to explain to them our entire business in like a 30-minute call. And I could only do so many calls a day. But when we started activating our own customers, I basically said, they know the product, they understand it, they've seen all our emails, they know how we talk, let's trust them and not brief them as much. And so recently we launched our YouTube channel, and it is powered by our customers from our Slack community. And we're now doing over 100,000 views a month. And we only have launched like 6 videos, and it's all 100% organic, no paid ad spend behind it. And I have one person on the team managing the entire thing, but that's because we focus on the customers. So that is one of the things I like to do the most. And then for piggybacking off of others' audiences, that's why I love influencer marketing. The organic approach is a long-term approach, but influencer is a way of getting the same result in a short term. And so we like doing both simultaneously, because why not? They're different strategies, and they all feed each other as well.
Love that.
Yeah, and I teach the ABCs of content and trying to keep it simple. So attract, bond, and convert. So attract would be top of funnel, mid funnel would be the bond, and then convert would be the bottom of the funnel. And so I've brought, since October, we've over doubled our following on Instagram. And that's because, and Ramon and I agreed to this, sometimes when you're starting, I would suggest that you go all in on a single social platform to start. You start to build it, you start to understand it, you start to be able to stick with it. Because listen, I have a TikTok, I have a YouTube, but it's it spreads us thin. So now we're at, I think, of almost 132,000 followers. And I've had this business for over 7 years. And so it took us a very long time up until last October to hit about 60,000 followers. And then the fact that I've sped it up in this way, I started using the framework of attract, bond, create. So one of the things that we do, we do post 4 times a day. I'm not saying that any of you need to do it, but really thinking through the type of content. We also have run $1 million in ads, but we turned off all of our ads for social. That's usually our ad spend for the year. So we turned it off for social because I was like, let's see if this thing works, because I love to teach organic reach. And so the attract content is that kind of like, I like to imagine, casting a really wide net, big fishermen, like they're trying to catch all the salmon and they're just like, there's things in there they're throwing back in. So that's sort of the viral content that we're creating. And Instagram specifically has made it really easy now for remixing content and really kind of trying to think through like how you can use things that have already gone viral to continue to make it go viral. If it's gone viral for someone else with 1 million views or more, then it's going to go viral for you no matter how big your audience is. So it could be 300 people following you and you'll still maybe hit 2,000, 3,000 views on a reel versus, something else. So we like to do the real content, or if we're doing posts or captions that people are gonna share, that's really that attract. And that's the thing where you want people to just reshare it, post it. I send my husband a gazillion reels all the time, right? It's like, that's the kind of content you want to put out there because that's going to cast the wide net. And then that mid-funnel content, the bond, is what keeps them there. It's the sticky content. It's the stuff where they're going to trust you. So if you've got a physical product, they love to see you make stuff. I had a client go viral on TikTok. Every time she flooded her sugar cookies, she'd put it on slow-mo. Millions of views, millions, and tons of revenue from selling sugar cookies on TikTok because they like to watch her flood a cookie. So it's so simple. Humans are so simple now, right? We just it's just micro bits of content. So anything that will really make them stick around, and they love to watch, what you like to watch, like someone putting on lipstick or cutting through a slice of cake or pouring a candle or whatever it is, that kind of behind the scenes stuff. And then the final part is the conversion content. And that's actually the least amount of content you should be posting because they don't love it. So if you go look at a huge brand, like I think Nike has a good following, but I always like to go back to Aloe Yoga, and there's a million of the stores here for some reason here in Boston. They're really loving Aloe. They'll post, but they don't have high engagement. So when you look at the really, really big brands, it's more like we've all signed up to follow them because we know them and we maybe want to see something, but it's really not the people that we're engaging with that often. And so I think looking at that kind of content and your conversion content, the hit is when you have the ABCs all in one, something that's gone viral, that they bond with, and then can also convert them into purchase.
So I want to take a step back because you both kind of mentioned and hit on 2 very distinct things. There's content that drives conversion. There's content that really focuses on building trust and that brand authenticity or founder relationship with potential customers. How do you guys go about thinking that approach for the first time? It's very overwhelming to kind of consider, making content one version for conversion versus focusing on just broader brand awareness. So how do you guys approach that balance?
Well, in our case, I agree with you 100%. Like, not every piece of content should be going for the sale. That's one way to not gain trust from the get-go. So Blaine and I were trying to figure it out in the beginning, just making a bunch of random content. But when we sat down with a strategist, by the way, like, you should have a support team, like, either if you're not really good at editing, get some help on strategy, just someone to bounce ideas with. But when we got to the bottom of it, it was that in order to make this manageable and make this puzzle fit into place, we need our content pillars. What are the things that we're going after? And so in our case, content pillars, one of our content pillars was, have the customer base feel like they're getting a look behind the curtain of our business. And then we broke it down by top of funnel content, middle of funnel content, and bottom of funnel content. And so, 80% of our content initially is going to be top of funnel. It might not be super related to the business, but is macro related to our niche. So we can try and go viral, build traffic. Now, middle of funnel, let's talk a little bit more about, let's get closer to the problem that Castmagic solves. And then bottom of funnel content, let's create sales heavy content that's 15 to 20% of the content. It might be really heavy on our product. And so when we were able to break it down and map it out like that in front of us, it just made it seem like we had a proper strategy and we know why we're making the content. Making content without intent will lead you to burnout.
Well, you hit on something there in terms of ensuring that your brand is consistent and shows up throughout the pillars of content that you have. Great. So as we head into 2025, I'm curious to know each of your biggest kind of takes into what are some of the biggest trends or like hacks that you would recommend for next year?
I would say number one, well, YouTube organic, like longer form content is huge, especially when you have such short attention span platforms like TikTok. On the other hand, you have YouTube, which have been really high converting platforms. And so right now there's a big barrier to entry with YouTube because just making long form content is so time consuming. But if you put effort into figuring that out for your business and your team, it's going to pay off dividends. Also SEO, search through platforms. Like SEO is huge on YouTube now. You look up most how-to something on Google. Google is prioritizing a YouTube video now over that. A lot of people are searching on TikTok. So SEO there is huge. And then lastly, I would say influencer is, I think we haven't even like hit the full stride on influencer. It's still crazy early. We also turned off 100% of our ad spend through platforms that are just doing influencers because we're acquiring customers at a much more profitable rate. And last takeaway on that is you don't need fancy platforms, databases, expensive platforms to find the influencer. The platform is the sort of the search database for finding influencers. And I'll give you one huge hack that worked for us. If you go on Instagram or TikTok, you find the ideal person that you want to work with, you click on similar or suggested people, and it's going to show you a bunch more people like that. And so that's a way of sourcing a bunch of creators that fit that persona. And then another thing we did is we created a new Instagram account. We followed only like 10 creators that were similar profile of who we were going after. And then we go on the explore feed, and then the account automatically just shows us thousands of people that are like that explore feed. And then we have a team sorting through, doing outreach to all those people. So you don't need fancy tools, double down on influencer, and then search is huge on video.
I love that.
Yeah, and I would say the talking head is out. So creating content where it's just your head bopping around, they're not so into it. So anytime it could be like a teaching piece of content where you look like you're up on a board, or it really feels a little bit more engaging. I'll go back to chatbots. I think that has been instrumental. It's basically like an entire funnel we can build out on the back end. So whether it's replies and different types of replies that's seen live. So, we post a piece of content, we're like, comment the word inbound, for example, and then it'll say like, great, we're sending something in your inbox. But then there's different responses we can set up. So it looks like it's organic. And then taking them into the DM and really getting into a conversation. And so we're also building out quizzes through chatbots that really have been, I think we have like 500 people a week, which is our goal to engage of like a new organic audience, and then moving them to the email list. So that's doing really great. I think that's good.
Yeah, I love it. So don't be afraid to work with influencers and find scrappy ways to identify those, whether it's on a micro level to reach your audience. And then don't be afraid to leverage tools either. So as we head into 2025, few takeaways for driving meaningful social media growth, really around, sounds like brand vision. How are we leveraging tools in your toolkit to really drive from that point of initial conversation down to conversion, and really being open to diversifying your sources of revenue? Crucial. So thank you both so much.
Thank you
both.
Yeah.